No one thought he'd make it back. Luke Carson, way too lost, way too weak, done for. For weeks, he barely left his room. The mattress was on the floor. The food expired. His face in the mirror, pale and lifeless. It was like the world had lost its color. He was breathing, but inside everything was just quiet. Family stopped calling. Friends disappeared. And deep down, he had started to accept that maybe this was it. But then one day, something shifted. He didn't cry, didn't scream. He just stood up, weak, shaking, clueless. But with one decision, he'd never be that man again. Now Luke Carson gets up before the sun. He runs even when his body begs to stop. He stands when his mind screams to lie down. Because he understood something most people avoid: you either change or you fade away. This is the story of an ordinary guy who refused to accept a mediocre fate. This is the story of Luke Carson. Luke Carson used to smile. Not much, but enough to seem alive. Now, he doesn't smile anymore. His eyes are always downcast. His back's hunched over. His beard's overgrown. The smell in the room is stale, heavy, like the air just gave up circulating. There's a coffee mug on the floor, hasn't moved in 3 days, an overdue bill, and a collection notice he didn't even bother to open. His phone's turned off. Not because the battery died, but because no one's calling. Sometimes he wakes up at 2 a.m. with his chest tight, only to realize he never really slept. Luke lost his job 3 months ago. His last friend stopped coming around. His mom texted on Christmas. He didn't reply, not because he didn't care, but because it hurt. Replying takes strength, and he doesn't have any left. But nobody sees that. No one knows what happens when the door shuts. They think he's lazy, weak, a man who gave up on his own life, and maybe they're not entirely wrong. Luke's on autopilot. He gets up, but he's not awake. He eats, but doesn't taste. He breathes. But it feels like drowning on the inside, and every morning his mind repeats the same line: you're a failure. Nothing you do will change that. He tried to fight it at first, but day by day that voice grew louder, more convincing, more real, and the silence became the loudest place on earth. It's in that empty space between thoughts and where Luke lost himself. Truth is, no one just collapses overnight. It's one slip at a time, one postponed decision, one broken promise, one comfortable excuse. And now he's here, at the edge between existing and disappearing. Some would call it depression, others a breakdown. Luke, he just calls it routine. The pain isn't sharp anymore, it's just part of the scenery. But what no one knows is this kind of pain isn't the end. This pain is the warning, the scream before the breakthrough, the cold floor, where men learn to stand. And Luke Carson is about to remember who he used to be, or discover who he's always been. It was a Tuesday, cold, grey, like every other day in the past few months. Luke woke up on the floor, again. This time, he couldn't even remember when he laid down. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just collapsed there. There was a drop of dried blood at the corner of his mouth. Nothing serious, but it felt symbolic, like a mark of someone losing the fight against himself. He stared at the ceiling, didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't ask for help. Just laid there, eyes open, body still, heart beating slow, like the world was watching, waiting to see if he'd get up or vanish for good. Something changed in that moment, and it wasn't magic. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't like the movies. It was dirty, quiet, heavy. Luke saw his reflection in the glass door of the cabinet. And for the first time, he felt disgust, not at his face, but at what he'd let himself become. He remembered who he was before the fall, before the hole, before the lies he told himself. He used to be disciplined, intense, the kind of man that earned respect, not pity. Where did that guy go? The answer came quick. He disappeared, one choice at a time. And now either he brought that man back or spent the rest of his life watching someone braver take his place. Luke didn't make any promises, no long-term plans, no big declarations of change. He just got up, slowly, in pain, no glory, but whole for the first time in months. He walked to the bathroom, splashed water on his face, looked himself in the eyes, and said, "This ends today." No crowd, no witnesses. The only signature on that decision was silence. But in that moment, a man was born. Not the broken Luke, not the ghost Luke, but the Luke who didn't exist yet. The one who could only come after the pain. The one no one saw coming. That first day, no magic, no miracles, just shame. Luke tried doing 10 push-ups. He managed 4. Lying on the floor, arms shaking, forehead dripping sweat, he smiled. A crooked, ugly smile, but honest. Because for the first time in months, he was fighting something real. Not just the ghosts in his head. He started small. Really small. Push-ups, short runs, cold showers. Nothing comfortable, nothing fun. But day by day, the discomfort started to feel right. The bed looked way more tempting at 5 a.m. But the floor, that's where he wanted to be. Because the floor is honest. The floor doesn't lie. The floor shows you exactly who you are. No filters. He cried on the third day, not from physical pain, but because his mind screamed at him to quit, and he didn't. For the first time, he understood what mental control really is. It's not about conquering the world. It's about conquering yourself. Luke stopped chasing motivation. Motivation is weak. It won't get you up at 4 a.m. It won't carry you through your 80th rep. It won't hold your hand when your chest is about to explode from wanting to quit. What holds you is discipline. And Luke decided to become the most disciplined man he'd ever known, even if it cost him everything. By the end of that first week, his muscles were torn. His meals were basic, his bed, the floor, the routine, brutal. But his eyes, Luke's eyes had changed. Now they had focus. They had anger. They had hunger. Not for revenge, for redemption. He wanted to prove he could still be someone, not to others, to himself. He trained in silence, ate in silence, thought in silence. But inside him, the noise was deafening. The roar of someone who had finally woken up. No one saw what was happening because all of Luke Carson's transformation happened where no one was looking, in the dark. Not the kind of darkness that scares kids, the kind that swallows grown men whole, the kind that lives in past due bills, dirty dishes, and blank stares in the mirror. But in that place, with no witnesses, Luke was building something. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't inspiring. It was ugly, painful, bloody, but it was real. He ran before sunrise, with cold wind cutting his skin and thoughts whispering, "Go back home." But he didn't, because going back meant being that man again, and he hated that man. He trained with no gym, no equipment, no plan, just body weight, just guilt. Each push-up, a scream left unscreamed, each drop of sweat pain being purged. His meals were simple, no pleasure, no comfort. He ate for discipline, not for hunger. He cut it all, the booze, the distractions, even small talk. If it didn't serve the mission, it was gone, because Luke had a mission now, to be reborn, not just to climb out of the pit, but to burn every bridge that led back to it. His muscles started to respond. His posture straightened. His eyes had changed. They used to be empty. Now they were sharp, like he could see something no one else could. Focus. There was no more distraction, no more doubt, no more hesitation. Just steps, firm, unshaken, directed. He still fell, still had bad days, still had voices whispering, "You're not going to make it." But now, he answered, not with words, with action. With every workout done tired, with every clean meal eaten despite the cravings, with every decision not to go back to that old world because he wasn't that man anymore. He was the forged version. Luke became the kind of man the old Luke would fear. His cold stare, his brutal discipline, his ability to do what needs to be done. No whining, no excuses. He became the guy who walks into the room and silence shows respect. A man who knows exactly who he is because he bled to figure it out. A man no one knew, but the world's gonna have to deal with. Luke Carson didn't become famous, didn't get rich, didn't turn into an influencer. He didn't gain followers. He gained respect. His own. The kind of respect you earn when no one's clapping for you, when no one bets on you. And even then you get up anyway. He still has scars, still carries ghosts, but now he's the one in charge. Because he did what almost no one has the guts to do. He stared into his own abyss and jumped, not to die, but to be reborn. Today he lives simple, no luxury, but with purpose. Every step he takes, he feels solid ground, because he built that ground with pain, with discipline, with hard choices made in silence. People ask, "Luke, what made you change?" He answers with his eyes. They carry the truth. No one really changes from the outside. Change starts inside, where no one's watching, where you choose to get up or disappear. And he chose to get up. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was a decision, a daily war against his own mind. It was early mornings, training through pain, eating with discipline, thinking with clarity, and repeating it every single day until one day the pain got lighter, the doubt shrank, and the fear shut up. Luke Carson became something rare, a dependable man, consistent, strong, not loud, strong in silence. He doesn't need to prove anything, because he's already proven it to himself. And if today were the end, he'd be ready. Not because he beat everything, but because he fought till the end, standing. And now it's your turn to ask yourself, how many more days will you let pass before you do the same? How much longer will you settle for being half of what you could be? When will you decide to stop surviving and start transforming? Because no one's going to do it for you. And deep down, you already know that.